Alright, so today I'm going to be reviewing, briefly, the first 3 books in Charlie Rose's Bad Love series. So this is Bad Habit, Bad Intentions, and Bad Influence. I didn't realize before I started this video that there's actually a 4th one. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be reading it. That might be telling for the rest of this review. Alright, first up, spoiler warning. I am about to spoil all 3 of the first books in this series, and I will not apologize for it. I also want to say, before I get started, that I'm not here to shit on anybody. I'm not here, I don't hate read books, normally. I don't go into a book thinking I'm not gonna like it. I just don't read it if I think I'm not gonna like it. Like I said, I'm not here to judge, I'm not here to shit on anybody, but I am going to be honest, and what I'd like to do is just talk about the things in this book series that I thought worked really well, and then talk about the things that I think maybe didn't work as well, maybe things that could have been tweaked a little bit. So let's talk about the first book, which is called Bad Habit. This is the Amazon page explanation. So it says, Briar. I was infatuated with Asher Kelly from the moment he came tumbling through my brother's window 5 years ago. Even bruised and bloodied, he was the most beautiful boy I'd ever seen. We couldn't be together. I was too young and he was too untouchable. He was too troubled and I was too naive. But the heart is rebellious and mine decided it didn't care about any of those things. As I got older, harmless flirting turned to stolen moments in dark corners, until one day he was gone without a trace. Now, 3 years later, he's back, callous and cruel. He's my brother's best friend, my parents' worst nightmare. I should hate him, but like a bad habit, I can't quit him. Asher. I was drawn to Briar Vale from the first time she looked at me with stars in her big blue eyes. She was just a kid, nothing but elbows and knees, but she was the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen. We could never be together. I was too old and she was too off limits. She was too good and I was too fucked up. Eventually, the temptation became too much to resist. I risked everything for a kiss and she betrayed me. 3 years have passed and I'm forced to see her again. But now she's all grown up. She's my best friend's baby sister, my downfall. I hate her for what she did, but she's always been my drug of choice. Now, honestly, I love a good star-crossed romance. However, had this been the first book I read, I probably wouldn't have read it off synopsis alone. It seemed a little off to me, but I specifically want to read the second book in the series, and even though it says they're interconnected standalones, I like to start with the first one because there's always recurring characters and So anyway, I read the book, and immediately what jumped out to me is that when they're talking too young, they are talking 14 and 18. Yeah. The age difference is an age difference. And it's not just a kiss. It's a kiss and also some over the clothes, friction, I don't know how else to put it. And it's quite concerning to read, especially because it's kind of mentioned that, like, yeah, they probably shouldn't be doing that, but it's never, like, I feel like it never really gets, like, the weight it deserves, because that is, like, 4-year age gap is not a big deal. There's always, situations and circumstances, but 14 and 18 and the grinding over the clothes, and it's just not good. So that was immediately concerning to me. But I don't like to not finish books, and I was like, okay, well, let's see, like, how this goes. Let's see what happens. Let's see if maybe I'm gonna get, like, I don't know, because I don't like to read reviews. I read the synopsis and then nothing else, because I like to be surprised, and I'm kind of rethinking that policy. I will say, right off the bat, I think this is the worst of the 3, and it is almost solely for that opening. It doesn't help that I find the entire thing where they just won't fucking talk to each other about like what is going on. I find that quite frustrating because I love romance. I don't love the miscommunication. That just drives me up the wall. So that's the thing with this book. I think so basically he comes back and she's now 17 and he's 21, which is a much better age gap in general. Like, she's still technically underage, but she's about to turn 18 and whatever, right? We'll just leave that one alone. But it's better. It works. The problem is that he's like really mean to her, but then they're also like the whole drug of choice thing, and it's just I think, this is my opinion, like I said, I'm not here to just do nothing but shit on books. I think the way to solve this, or at least sort of make it less concerning, is if she would have made them 17 or even 16 and him like 18 or 19. Right? Like, close that age gap a little bit, make her slightly older, so she's not 14, like that's middle school, depending on what school you go to. So like, that's a thing, quite concerning to me. I think just switching those ages a little bit, I don't think you lose any of the dynamic of like the, she's too young, he's too old, she's too pure, he's too broken, she's my brother, no, he's my brother's best friend. Like, I don't think you lose any of that tension by making the age gap slightly less, making her a little bit older, but it is less creepy and less concerning and less likely to make me want to throw the book down. Full stop. I think that would have been the biggest change. And I think from there you have a kind of fun, kind of cliche, I shouldn't even say kind of, very cliche, romance story about, you know, the brother's best friend and forbidden love and star-crossed lovers and miscommunication abound. And I think it would have been fine. But solely for the fact that they're grinding on each other, well, she's grinding on him, let's be very clear, when she's 14 and he's 18, and yes, it's initiated by her, but like, she's 14, she's 14, I don't know what else you want me to say. Anyway, so the book wasn't for me. I have quite a few concerns with that age gap. I don't really want to talk about anything else because there's not really anything else to talk about. My biggest problems with the book are basically fully solved, because I'm not going to say, oh, they miscommunicate all the time, because that's just part of what this sort of genre subgenre is a lot of the time. I'm not going to criticize Charlie Rose for doing something that tons of other authors do. It would have been probably less grating had I not had this sort of thing in the back of my mind that there's this very weird thing that set off their relationship. And so yeah, I think my biggest complaint with the whole book, and it trickles through everything else for me for that book, biggest thing was that if you just switch the ages a little bit, you lose a lot of that sort of creepiness factor while still maintaining a good chunk of the tension, right? Anyway, so this is not the book I actually want to start with. I wanted to start with the second book because that was the one that actually sounded like it appealed to me. All right, so the second book is called Bad Intentions, and this is the little blurb. Lo, moving to River's Edge was supposed to be a fresh start, away from chaos, away from bad influences and worse relationships. All I wanted was to give my little brother more of a chance than I ever had. It should have been simple. I didn't count on my transgressions following me, and I definitely didn't count on meeting Dare. Tall, tortured, and tattooed, a lost boy through and through. Falling for someone like him was asking for heartache, but I was a sucker for punishment. Dare. I had a routine. Eat, work, sleep, repeat, only ever doing the bare minimum to keep up appearances. I kept my circle small and my guard high. I spent years making sure I didn't repeat the mistakes of my past, forming an impenetrable layer of ice around my heart. Then Logan showed up in my town, in my tattoo shop, testing my patience along with my self-control. She was fire and I was ice. I should have stayed away, but I had been cold for far too long. See, and to me, I was like, oh, okay, this is starting to tick some of my boxes, and I love tattooed men. So I figured, you know what, this will be good. All right, so the thing with Bad Intentions is that it started out good, and I was pretty okay with how it was going. There's a lot of angst, but like, that's fine. I don't mind that. And my issues with it actually are the reveals very close to the end. It was fine up until that point, okay? You had me in the first half. So there was a couple issues right at the end that really clinched it for me. I was like pretty into the book up until this point. So first of all, it's implied that Dare has like a tragic hidden backstory, that he's, you know, some awful person, and people are like wary, and like a lot of them leave him alone. And at the end, it is revealed that he is essentially responsible for a boy's death who was essentially his brother. He was living in this home as a foster child, and this was the boy, and he was going to be adopted by them, I guess, and like, yeah, he's responsible for the death of one of the kids. The reason he's responsible for the death of one of the kids is that he got caught feeling up his, like, foster sister, essentially. So then the brother's like, and pushes him, and they get into a fight, and then the brother falls through the ice and dies. Because they're at, like, a skating rink or something. I don't fucking remember. So the whole tragic thing is that he's a murderer, and it's like, okay, this was so incongruous for a couple reasons. Like, this is so, like, out of place, almost. Alrighty, so I got distracted and don't remember where I was. I think I was talking about Dare. Anyway, so that was the issue with Dare, in a nutshell. That reveal is just kind of like, okay, so you made some very poor decisions as a child, and then it felt so weird and like almost forced is maybe the word I would use. I don't know. Either way, wasn't a huge fan of that. Didn't really like that reveal, especially because it's like, it wasn't just an accident. It was an accident brought upon because he was doing things of a sexual nature with essentially his adopted sister. Like, foster sister, I don't know what you want to call it, but like, either way, not great. Just, so then that happened right at the end, and I'm like, oh, god damn it. And then the other thing that got me, okay, was that the end reveal. So Logan has like a very bad past, especially relating to her mother, and that's why they go to this like new town to live with their dad. And at the very end, it is revealed that their dad is not actually their biological dad, and somehow this is like a huge betrayal, and it's like a whole thing, and it's an absolute mess and it's brought upon, and they find it out, and basically what it is their dad was thought they were his for a while or something, but then, or didn't, but like had gotten together with their mom when they were super little and thought of them as his kids, and then when their mom continued to be nuts and used them to like hold over his head to make him do things, he like packed up and left. And then years later, when the two kids need a place to stay, I mean, they're adults, but you know what I mean, like one adult, one a teenager, they then go stay with him, and he's like the closest thing to like a real caring parent they have, and has proven time and time again that he's basically their dad, and he loves them, he cares about them. And then suddenly all of that is negated because he's not their biological dad. And Logan kinda, sorta, not really, kinda comes to terms with it by the end, but then her younger brother is a little shit about it. And he's the one that's in high school. And the point is, it just bugged me so much because, like, really, that's your end reveal? Like, your end reveal is that her dad isn't her biological dad, and somehow that just fucking wrecks everything. Like, it was a very weird it was a very weird thing to me for that to be like the end, like major, you know, climax of the book, was this fact that, oh, this isn't their real dad. And I mean, that's not the only thing that happens at that point, but it's the big one. And in an otherwise pretty enjoyable, kind of cliched romance, this was a sticking point for me. These were the two sticking points, actually. And they happened right at the end, and I was having fun with the book up until then, and then I kind of went, oh, I don't really want to finish this, but I finish books. Most of the time, I finish books. My biggest thing with this book is just changing the whole dare murderer thing. Like, you could probably change that so it's a little bit less, like, maybe it actually was an accident that doesn't involve feeling up his foster sister. Like maybe just, you know, leave it at, like, if you just don't have that part and they get in a fight, or even they're playing, or it's they're like fake wrestling, what, like, whatever, and then he falls through the ice and Dare feels responsible, great, perfect, and you don't have sort of that weird thing. Same thing, that reveal. It's not that I don't think you can't have the reveal of, like, oh, he's not actually their biological dad. That's fine. It's kind of the way it was handled and the way it was talked about. I'm a big believer in family, you know, family you choose, and like blood isn't everything. And so the fact that he is their dad from everything except that he's not their biological dad doesn't sit super great with me. And I would, you know, to me, that's the thing I would change. I would sort of change how that reveal was handled. Not the reveal itself, just the way it was handled. And yeah, so I was just kind of unimpressed with that. And I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother reading the third one. Because like I said, at the time, I thought there was only 3. I was like, I'm not even going to bother reading the third one. Like, I've been disappointed twice through various things that make what would otherwise be an enjoyable read not enjoyable. And then after a couple days, I was like, I don't like leaving things unfinished. And I feel like it's unfinished because the third book is about Logan's younger brother. The last book that I'm talking about at least, is called Bad Influence. It follows a girl named Allie who a year previous had lost her dad, and she's moved to his hometown to live there and go to school there and whatever. And the other lead character is Jess, who is Logan's, from the second book's, younger brother. Jess basically, it's kind of explained. Okay, so the whole thing is Jess is on the college rugby team, gets kicked off because he's missing practices and his grades are dropping, and then he just like quits university. Okay, so, or college, I guess. So, whatever. And then so he moves back to like home. Yeah, like he's not working and he's just kind of living on couches and other stuff. And anyway, long story short, so Allie and Jess are the pairing here. And the issue with this one, because I think you're seeing a pattern, this was my favorite of all of them. And it was because these two characters were a little bit more understandable and relatable right up until the end, where we find out that the big, like, horrible, evil, bad thing that Jess is doing is that he's and this is what got him like kicked out of university. He was missing class and stuff because he was basically blackmailed into fighting in an underground fight ring for money, and that's the big reveal. And I was just kind of like, really? Like, the way it was being set up, I was like, I think he's a drug dealer. I think he's dealing drugs. Like, that was how I thought that was being set up. And then no, it's just like, okay, he's in an underground boxing ring, essentially. And like, yeah, he's kind of being blackmailed into it, but like, I don't know, we don't see enough of it being a huge issue in his life, other than the fact that, like, yeah, he was missing like practices and school because he was being blackmailed, so he couldn't pick the times he was going to fight. But it's like, this sounds like a you problem. And then you find out why he's being blackmailed, okay? And the reason he's being blackmailed is because his deadbeat mom, who like kept ruining things in the last book and is just horrible, and that's the whole point of them moving away from her, she basically like for some reason he like kind of forgives her and feels bad for her, and so he like gets her an apartment. And so one of the things is like he's basically paying for her to live. And it's like, okay, she was abusive to you and your sister. She left you guys for dead. She like wrecked any hope you had at a normal family life, and you're still protecting her. And it's just not explored well enough for it to be a theme of like, you know, when do you cut the toxic people out of your life? It's just not explored well enough for that. And so it's just sort of a thing. So it's like, you threw away a full ride in college on a rugby scholarship and your chance with a woman you like, and all of this other stuff because your deadbeat mom needed a place to live, so then you ended up getting blackmailed into a bunch of shit. And like, come on, why do these end reveals? Like, I'm kind of unimpressed about it. Like, I hate that the end reveal for each of these books has been underwhelming, with the exception of the first one, because the first one, the beginning, was concerning. So anyway, for this book, my biggest concern, honestly, it had way more like good moments in it that I liked. One of the other things is like closer to the end, Allie almost gets raped by a guy that was like her dad's friend, and it's a whole thing. But like, do we have to go down that route? Did it need to be almost being raped so that Jess can barge in and save her? Come on. But like, this was not it. This was not it. So my suggestions for improving the third book, or like how to sort of manage this a little bit better: give him like a better reason to throw his entire like college and scholarship and everything away. Don't make it be an underground fighting ring. Like I said, all the hints were being dropped for drug dealer. I would have went that route. Hell, in most of the states, pot is still illegal, right? So like, and this takes place in the States, so like, have him be a pot dealer, because then it's not like a hard drug that's ruining everybody's life, but he's still a bad boy because pot's not legal. Sorry, I'm in Canada, it's legal here. But you know what I mean? Like, make it slightly more like edgy than just like, oh, he's in an underground fighting ring. Take his mother completely out of it, or if you want to put her into it, make it like they're holding like her actual life over his head or something. Or if you're gonna do what Charlie Rose did, lean into this idea of when do you cut toxic people out of your life, and this idea that so many of us have, that we need to love people just because they're family. Like, stop that. Like, you can lean into that part if you're gonna go that route, or take it out entirely, or kind of direct it in a different way. The other thing, fully remove the almost rape thing. If I was to make a specific suggestion, I would say, if you want that same sort of thing where he like barges in and is angry, because he's protective of her, like, maybe even make it a misunderstanding. Like, the guy is actually just trying to, like, you know, have a drink with her to celebrate a successful launch of like the thing she was doing, and then have the guy barge in, and then you can have like a bit of a miscommunication, like, okay, these are my boundaries. Like, you could do something like that that would have worked, I think, way better and been less jarring, because that's just icky. Another thing I kind of forgot about until I was just talking about it right before the almost rape thing, where one of Allie's friends like plays Jesse's girl, because they're like in a band, and the whole thing, and basically there's this whole like thing about her best friend possibly being in love with her, and then it culminates in this thing where he plays Jesse's girl, which, like, did you name him Jesse just so you could pull that? Because if so, kudos. Actually, that's fucking hilarious. I cackled. So point is, but he does this, and then the whole thing is like, oh, there's actually a different girl he was interested in, and it like totally fucked with his head and all this stuff. And it's like, was that necessary? Like, I get it, the Jesse's girl thing was funny, but there wasn't a different way to put that in if you really want, because like, man, I would not want to delete that scene either, but like, did you have to go that route where it's like, oh, there's a different girl? And it was just kind of hand-waved, and I'm assuming that at some point she's gonna write the romance book that ties in, that's about this like Allie's best friend and then this random chick that he's apparently into. But that's like way too vague and weird and hand-wavy of a thing to just drop in. Did not like that. Take that out. I mean, if you want to. Once again, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm not here to shit on things. I just want to explain my problems and how I would fix it or what I would suggest. Yeah, so that is it. That's all I got. So those are the first 3 books in the Bad Love series by Charlie Rose. There are good points to the books. They're fine, like they're written fine. Like I said, the 3rd one is absolutely the best of the 3. I would say don't even bother reading the 1st one, especially if that age gap thing weirds you out. Don't even bother because it's not quite relevant enough for the other ones. The 2nd one, like I said, there's part at the back, like at the end, that kind of bugged me, but I mean, it's good. The 3rd one actually I enjoyed the most, to the point where I would say I actually like enjoyed myself while reading it. Once again, had a couple weird things, didn't like that end reveal, but that's okay. I probably won't bother to read. There's a 4th one and apparently a 5th one coming out. Probably won't bother to read them. If I do, I probably won't make a video about it. I think Charlie Rose is talented. I think there's lots of things that she will go on to write that will be better. You know, you improve every time. And these just maybe weren't for me. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts about the 3 books. If anyone else has read them, I'd love to know, because something I noticed, so afterwards I was reading reviews, and especially the 2nd one, and nobody really mentioned the dad thing, and like, to me that seems weird. And like, the books are quite well reviewed and most of the complaints seem to be sort of the same things I was picking on. So I think most people are generally in agreement that they are good books but could use just a little bit of don't do that. You know, change that, take that out. But yeah, so that's my review of these 3 books. Thanks for watching. Bye.